All right. We're live now. Hang on, I got to adjust the camera a little bit. There we go. Sorry about that. Just a little, so it's not cutting my head off. This I don't have it mounted real tight, so it tends to droop a little bit. We may have to adjust it a couple of times here. Let me do this one more time. There we go. Get the top of my head in there anyway. All right, I think we're live anyway. I think everything's working. It looks like it is. Got the mic plugged in, got the camera on, we got the lights going. I think we're good to go. Let me get disclaimers out of the way. We'll jump into it. This is a weekly live broadcast, pretty much every Thursday evening, 7 o'clock Central. This is where I am. If you're having a hard time getting questions answered, because I haven't been good about responding to comments, this is the place to do it. I do my best to respond to every topic or every chat that comes in during the live broadcast. Not the comments on the video, but the chat itself. And unless you're talking to each other, which is fine, talk to each other if you want, but I do tend to skip over those and try to get to the comments that are more addressed to me. The only things I mean, we'll talk about anything you want. I don't have a topic planned, but just be polite, keep it family friendly. Don't start cussing anybody. Don't be hateful. Don't be rude. Any of those things will kick you out. But other than that, pretty much all fair game. So let's jump into it. We got Buck Reynolds here. Says hello to you and everyone else. Well, hello to you too. Oh, excuse me. Warchild from New Zealand is here. Good to see you. Joy Guthrie says hello from Western Oregon. Let's see. I have eggs in lockdown. 1 hatched last night. 2 pipping this morning. My own jumbo mix eggs mixed up in 2 weeks. My standard mix. Good deal. Well, congratulations on the ones that have already hatched. You're probably getting way more than that already. Hopefully you have a great hatch. Joy says I'm hatching eggs about every 2 weeks. Well, awesome. Doing more than I am because I'm not hatching any yet. I'll get there, but not yet. Clifton says, hello, everyone from South Mississippi. We got 240 eggs in our new Terry baiter. Lockdown is on March 3rd, hoping for a good hatch. Well, I hope you have a great hatch. Sounds 240 eggs. That's a whole lot. Hopefully you have a really good hatch. David says, a few less than you, Clifton, but our lockdown is also on March 3rd with 47 quail and 24 chucker partridge. Awesome. I hope those go well for you, too. Martin Rabbitery says, does anyone have any experience making your own rabbit feed with a pellet machine? And is it cheaper than buying the farm from the farm store? I didn't even know they made pellet machines. So, no, I don't have any experience doing that. I guess depending on, if it's going to be cheaper or not, I guess that would depend on, you're going to have to grow some things for them to make into pellets. Primarily alfalfa is what most rabbit pellets are primarily made of. I don't know how cheap the seed is, it'd be a little bit of labor. So I don't know, honestly. I can't answer the question. We'll see if somebody else can jump in and get that one for you. Hey, there's Verna. Good to see you, Verna. All right, we got a couple of people. Kentucky woman says, good evening from Kentucky. Well, I assumed you were from Kentucky with the name, but I don't, maybe just a clever name. I found out today, actually, it brings up a new thing. That song, West Virginia, or Country Roads Take Me Home. I listened to a story about that today, how that song came about. It was a couple that wrote the song. They had John Denver record it, sold it to him. Well, didn't sell it to him, but got royalties off of it. Anyway, there's a line in that song talking about the Blue Ridge Mountains and Shenandoah River, and they're not even in West Virginia. Apparently, they'd never been to West Virginia. They're just singing about it, just liked it. So anyway, good song nonetheless. But I guess I don't know what got me onto that, except for your name, Kentucky Woman. If you weren't from Kentucky, then that would have been the same kind of thing, I guess. But anyway, welcome and good evening to you. Don says, good evening from South Central Illinois. 5th like. Awesome. We got 19 likes now. We're getting there. And there's Bob Cole. Good to see you, Bob. Let's see. George says, hello from my lunch break in Sydney. Awesome. Thanks for joining us on your lunch break. It is evening time here, but we've talked about that before, I think. Hey, there's David. David Brangelson, I think. Hopefully I got that right. Says hello to everyone. Hello to you, too. Jacob Wolf, good to see you. Verna's saying any minute I should be here. Well, I'm here already, but that was probably before I jumped on. Chris Mason, good to see you too. I'm doing well. Hopefully you are too. Spider Rivas, good to see you. Witch Doctor's here. Good to see you guys. Thanks for joining. And then we got Buster's here too. Says hello to everyone. Verna wants to know if I've started my seed beds yet. Well, not really. No. I got the garden pretty much cleaned up. But I do need to do some work in it. I should have done it in the fall. I say this every year. I should have done it in the fall. That's really the best time Do it in the fall. Get your seed, your garden beds all ready to go in the fall. Throw some compost on them, cover them up, and just all you got to do in the spring is plant, But I never do it. I'm always so lazy in the fall. I just never do it. Anyway, Jason Brown says, joining from Jamaica. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Hey, there's Jupiter. We haven't seen you in a while. Says, how you been doing? I've been doing well. Hopefully you are too. And we got Carnivore Barbie from Ontario and Tony from Toronto. Good to see both you guys. Abba Care says hello to everyone. And Don Skin from Mississippi. Good to see you guys. Witch Doctor says, was last week your birthday? If so, happy belated birthday. Let's see, was it last week? It was a week before, I think. Yeah, it was a week before last, but thank you. I appreciate it. Bob says it was a waste of time to try and incubate eggs that may have frozen out. Oh, is it a waste of time to try to incubate eggs that may have frozen outside in the hutches? Well, if you don't know if they're frozen or not, if it's a maybe they've frozen, it's probably not a complete waste of time, but it depends. I mean, if you can get a whole bunch of eggs that haven't frozen and you're putting off hatching those to try to hatch, I'd go for the ones haven't frozen, but it's not necessarily a waste of time. You could still have some pretty good hatch rates out of those. As long as they didn't completely freeze, they should be okay. Witch Doctor says, we're hatching out silky chickens right now. Well, that's awesome. We got Double QZ from Virginia. Good to see you. Jacob says, chick days are here at Tractor Supply. My mom and girlfriend told me I'm not allowed to go unsupervised. They tell me that 20 chickens is enough for now that I got you last year. Yeah, well, 20 chickens is quite a bit. If they're egg laying chickens, that's what you got them for. That's quite a bit. But yeah, I get it. I did see the chickens there. I went there yesterday to get dog food and saw the chicks. And I need to get chickens ordered. Actually, it's about time to order some meat chickens, though, not egg laying chickens. There's Short Pickens Quail says, hey, Chris and everyone, good to see you guys. Or good to see you. Fat Country says, hello from Tampa, Florida. Wanted to start raising rabbits for meat. I want to know, what breed do you recommend? Man, there's a whole bunch of different breeds. You can't go wrong with a good New Zealand or a good California. If you can find purebreds, one buck, one doe of each, that's a good way to go because you get that hybrid vigor from that first round. You wouldn't want to necessarily keep those babies as future breeders. It's best to really get purebreds if you can for your breeders. But if you can crossbreed, get a California and a New Zealand and crossbreed them, or anything. I mean, there's a lot of different meat breeds out there, but California and New Zealand's are probably the two most popular. They're the easiest to come by, and both of them are great meat rabbits. You're not going to go wrong with either one of those. I like the silver fox quite a bit. That's what I'm raising right now. I do like them, but they don't tend to grow out nearly as fast. I've had my best grow out rates with purebred New Zealand's, purebred Californians. But you can go with standard Rex. You could go with Florida Whites. They're a little bit of a smaller, more compact rabbit, but still good meat to bone ratio. Make a good meat rabbit. So, I mean, there's a whole bunch of them. Just look and see what you can get, and what you can get, preferably, like I said, purebred, pedigree, rabbit. And that would be what I would go with. And any of those are going to be great options for you. Phil from Washburn says, hello, everyone. I have 6 grow out rabbits at 11 weeks old. The males and females separated, and all was going great until this afternoon when I checked on them. I'm assuming there's more than that. Apparently the boys are getting mature, and one of the boys took a claw to the eyelid. He's not blind, but freezer camp is coming up. Should I process him now? I don't know. I mean, how bad is it? Is it just a scratch on the eyelid? I mean, that's not really that big of a deal, probably. Is he getting around just fine? Is he still eating? Is he still drinking? Or is he kind of just sitting and moping in the corner? I mean, it's going to be, depends on how bad the wound is, but honestly, I don't know that it's really that big of a deal. Clifton says, Tony Herman, talking to somebody else. Witch Doctor says it's chick days already. Yeah, I was kind of surprised too, but yeah, they had chickens. Gumbo Galahad says, hello. How many quail per square foot? I thought 1 per foot, but the guy from My Shire Farm said you could put 2 or 3 per foot. You can. 1 per foot is generally considered by most people to be about the average, but you can go way denser than that. Honestly, it sounds like a lot, one bird per square foot. You put them in your cage, but they all kind of huddle together in little groups, so it's not really that overly crowded at all. You could go as high as 2 or 3 per square foot, especially if you're just growing them out for the freezer. Then definitely you can do that, because I'd go way higher than that, honestly, in my grow outs, because really, I mean, they grow so fast that it's really only starting to get crowded. Even if you put like 4 to a square foot, it's really only starting to get crowded for the last week or week and a half before you process them all and send them to the freezer anyway. For your breeder cages, though, you know, probably 2 to 3 per square foot is about as dense as I would go. I tend to like to go a little bit less than that, honestly, but it's just personal preference. There's not really a good reason for that. I usually do no more than about 1 per square foot. Buck Reynolds says, a waste of time and money. Pellets are cheaper if you figure your time anything. So, yeah, that's in response, I think, to the trying to make your own pellets. Verna's saying that there are many ways to raise quail. Personally, I put 3 jumbos per square foot in a cage. If aviary, 1 or 2 per square foot. I think I'd go less than that in an aviary, but I'm not the aviary expert. Katrina usually can answer those questions about the aviaries. But if you've got them in a raised cage with a wire floor where the droppings will fall through, then yeah, you can go dense. But if you've got them in a permanent, like an aviary, like Verna's talking about, where it's a solid floor and the waste is going to build up, I think I'd go a little bit less than 1 per square foot. I think I'd go maybe, 1 per 2 or 3 square feet, in that situation. But I don't have personal experience with an aviary. That's just my thoughts on it. So we'll see if somebody can answer that from maybe a personal experience point of view. Tiny Quail Ranch says, hey, Chris from Ontario, I forgot to change my name from my carnivore channel before I commented, LOL. Hey, that's all good. It doesn't matter which name you would decide to use. It's all fine with me. Blessed with Pets is here. Good to see you, Blessed. Hey, there's Andy Rabbit. I didn't see you earlier. Hello to you. Let's see what we got here. Tiny Quail Ranch says, excited that My Shire eggs will be available next week here in Canada. Well, that is good news, isn't it? So hopefully you're getting some. Congratulations on that. That's a good supplier. David Lister says, I put our small group of quail, partridge, and a brooder in our shed a couple of days ago. One of the partridge jumped out of the brooder today and earned the title of Zoomy. Took 15 minutes to catch. Yeah, that's those little birds can be really hard to catch, that's for sure. Andy Rabbit says, my tree is half cut. Is that a metaphor or literally a tree that's half cut? I'm not really sure. But Blessed with Pet says, yesterday was my birthday. It was awesome. Sweet 16. I got my license and was surprised with the puppy that I have been begging for. She's a chocolate Shih Tzu, and I named her Mocha. Well, awesome. Happy birthday to you. I didn't realize it was your birthday, but I do remember talking about that yours is pretty close to mine. So hopefully, it sounds like it was a good one. Got your license. That's pretty exciting. Jacob Wolf says, Chris, what does your shirt say? I've been trying to read it. Oh, this is my, you may be cool, but you will never be as cool as Teddy Roosevelt riding a moose. Or you'll never be Teddy Roosevelt riding a moose cool. That's it. Yeah, Teddy Roosevelt. That was a promotional shot he did. You have to look it up. He actually rode a moose for like a promotional thing. Teddy Roosevelt did some pretty crazy things. Where are we at here? Andy says, hey, Chris, my incubator wouldn't hold temperature anymore. Called customer service at Little Giant, and they're sending me a new thermostat. Thanks for that video. Yeah, you're absolutely welcome. That is one good thing about, lots of good things, actually. I've had good luck with my Little Giant incubator, but their customer service is top notch. You call, like you said, you just called them and they're sending you a brand new thermostat. They probably didn't even ask you how old's the incubator, when did you buy it, or anything like that, right? They're also very, very helpful when you call them if you're having problems incubating. They will go through, the last time I called them, they were trying to go through like troubleshooting with me and how to hatch and all this kind of stuff. I was like, well, I kind of know how to hatch and troubleshoot. I get it, but they were super helpful, super friendly about it. So, I recommend them all the time. David says, hit the like button. Yeah, we got 36 likes in here. We have up to 72 people. It's a pretty big broadcast this time. Andy Rabbit says, I'm happy to get it cut finally. No worries about limbs falling off. Nice. George Kaiser says, I had a male quail attack another of my male, Rosetta. Half his skull was visible and lost an eye. Thought he'd die, but he survived. A hardy little bird and still breeds, even with half a head. Oh, that sounds hideous. There was a story, like years and years and years ago, probably back in the 30s or something. I don't know exactly when, but it was a long time ago. There was a guy that was going to process chickens and had an axe, was going to cut their heads off. And this is a true story. Missed and just took off pretty much took off the rabbit's head, but somehow missed the brainstem or something. Anyway, the chicken lived with no head for a long time. They took it to fairs. It was a big sideshow thing. It was very weird. Those people back then were a little odd. They didn't have a whole lot for entertainment, so they did some weird things. Spider Reva says, my quail's still not laying as many as before. Out of my 11 birds, I'm getting 3 to 5 eggs. Not sure if it's the cold weather here in Southwest Florida or the feed. All of them are females. I'm only feeding them. There we go. There's the rest of it. Crumble, 30%. I turn the light on for them at 6 a.m. until sunrise. From sundown, 2 more hours. Well, it sounds like you're doing everything right. Right now, my birds are just starting to lay again pretty regularly. They kind of took a little bit of a break, got real low on, and for the several days didn't get any, and then it was kind of 1 or 2 eggs here or there, and now they're starting to pick back up. So just give them a little bit of time. Even with lights, the days are so short. We're starting to get now where we've turned that corner and the days are getting a little bit longer, and you should start seeing it pick up quite a bit. But it's probably just a matter of just give them some time, be patient, and they should start picking up. I'm getting still sporadic. Like today, I think I got 7 eggs. Yesterday, I think I got 3. So it's, it will start picking up, and it'll be way more consistent going forward. But it really has to do more with the days are so short, and if we have a really gloomy day with a lot of cloud cover or something like that, that kind of adds to it. And even with lights on them, it's just not enough sometimes to keep them laying real consistently on the shortest days of the year. Show Me Bunnies and More says, how's it going from here from New Haven, Missouri? Just got our first batch of quail, 30 of them, and a new mama. Well, awesome. That is great. I figured that I was going to be upset if you weren't from Missouri with the name Show Me Bunnies and More. I assumed that was a Missouri person. It's always good to see more Show Me Staters here. And if you guys don't know, Missouri is called the Show Me State. So, Caesar says, hey, Chris, had my hatch last week. All the babies are doing well. Well, awesome. Congratulations on your hatch. I'm glad to hear they're doing well. Psycho Ward's here. Says, hello, everyone in the quail land. Good to see you guys. Thanks for joining us. Andy Rabbit says, yeah, it's a real tree. It got hit by lightning July 1st and died. The limbs have been falling off. One fell about 2 feet away from a week or so ago. 2 feet away from maybe your house. I don't know. 2 feet away from something. But yeah, it's time to take it down then. So I'm glad you're getting that taken care of. Let's see. TM says, has anyone used a hot pepper or capsicum in their bird feeder? I heard birds can't taste capsicum or hot peppers. Will the hot pepper affect the taste of the quail meat? I was just curious about it. I don't know that. Why are you wanting to put hot pepper in your bird feed? I don't really know. I've heard of people doing that to deter squirrels from their bird feeders, but I'm not sure. I don't know that it would or not. So are you wanting to do it just because you hope it adds to the flavor of the meat? I don't think it would affect the flavor of the meat much at all, but I really don't know why you want to do it. I'm not sure what the purpose is. And just curious about it. I'd like to try it sometime. Spider Reva says, other than crumble, what else do you guys recommend to feed them? And thank you. Well, I don't feed my birds anything but crumble. You can feed them some other things, some black oil sunflower seed. Not a lot of it, just because it's pretty high in fat, and you don't want to feed them primarily a diet of that. You can throw some mealworms or something like that in there if you want to, but it's not necessary. You don't need to go over and feed them anything else. Short Pickens Quail says, I do it occasionally. It does not affect the taste of the meat. I'm just curious, why are you throwing hot peppers in? Or what's the purpose? Is there a point to it? Joe Sandy says, I've been hot I've been reading about dry hatching, the kind where you add no water, not even at lockdown. Chris or anybody else, do you have any experience with this? Okay, I do a kind of a dry hatch in the summertime when the humidity levels are up pretty high. But in the wintertime, it like in the fall, the winter, when it's super dry out, no, I don't do dry hatching then. Even in the summer, I do add some water during lockdown, but not a lot, a little bit, just because our humidity levels are high enough. And I get good hatch rates doing that. But when it's super dry out, and I think it depends a little bit on what climate you live in, where you live. If you live in a very dry area, it may not work so well for you. But here in the summertime, we're looking at 80, 75 to 90% humidity on most days. So it's plenty high enough. I don't need to add a lot of water. Joe Sandy says, I see so many people struggle keeping humidity levels right. That seems so much easier. Yeah, your humidity levels are not that big of a deal. I mean, they are important to an extent, but not nearly as important as temperature and consistency in your temperature. Your humidity levels, but the biggest danger with those really is going too high. I mean, if you're way too low, that can be bad too. But generally, the biggest danger is going too high. If you put too much water in there and you get too high of humidity levels. But other than that, don't stress too much about humidity. It's not really as important. It's not as big of a deal. Bernice says to Spider Revis, they love watermelon, yarrow, cucumbers, summer squash, as well as black soldier fly larvae and mealworms for treats. Yeah, they do like all those things. It's not absolutely necessary, but you can do it if you want to. Handy Rabbit says, you want to hear something really cool? Nope. I don't like hearing cool things, but no, I'm kidding. Let's hear it. Moving stuff out of the yard, we had to move the quail cage, so I told my granddaughter to unplug the cord from the wall. And oops, I just put 24 baby quail in the brooder last night. I just went out there and thought about the babies. They were 100% quiet, and I was like, oh no. I looked in the brooder, and there's a quail, I guess hen, sitting in the brooder. Really? How did the quail get in there? How did the hen get in there? Anyway, and all the babies are under her, so she's keeping them warm, huh? That's awesome. Sometimes, quail are not generally really good at hatching and taking care of their own babies, but sometimes they step up, Desert Homestead says, Chris, I'm new to rabbits and find your channel to be a huge help. I've seen you talk about trimming rabbits' nails. Do you do it? Do you have a video? I don't usually trim my rabbits' nails unless they get like hugely overgrown. I just don't do it. I just don't see a point. The easy way to do it probably is to try to, if you've got wire cages, when they sit, their nails go through the bottom of the cages. You might be able to just get under there and trim them that way, but maybe hard to hold them still when you do it. Other than that, get a big towel, wrap them up, kind of hold them steady and just trim. Just kind of like you would a dog's nail. I don't do it. I never really trim them unless they get hugely overgrown and it's a huge problem. Andy Rabbit says, my brooder is on the same cord as the quail cage. So, okay. Same cord, like electrical cord? That doesn't explain how the quail got in the brooder with the, I'm not sure. I'm lost. David says, I find quail don't miss mini pellets as much as crumbles. That's interesting. I've never tried mini pellets, but I may have to give it a try sometime. I don't have huge waste problems. Excuse me. Let me grab a drink real quick. All right. I don't have huge problems with waste. I use like Tupperware style containers with holes cut in them. Just make sure I don't get the feet up too high, and it's not really a big problem. But yeah, if you don't have something like that, they are tremendously messy eaters. Andy Rabbit says, I have some grow-outs that are like 3 months old still in the other part of the brooder because of the tree. Somehow she got over in with them. Oh, okay. That makes a little more sense. Let's see. Our baby Tarako says, maybe I pronounced that right, says some people add peppers in some parrot feed to make them more eager to breed. I'm not sure if that works with all bird types. I have never heard of that. Was there something about pigeons I missed? Andy's saying I don't have pigeons. I don't know what that. Did I miss a comment about pigeons? I don't know. Anyway, I missed that. And let's see. Buster says, Andy, glad everything turned out okay. Yeah, absolutely. Short Pickens Quail says, red pepper flakes, cayenne pepper is an immunity booster. I use it mostly with my chickens. Oh, okay. I didn't know that, actually. Makes sense, though. Blessed Week says, is 5 weeks old too young for a new pup? That's how old the Shih Tzu pup is. Me personally, I wouldn't separate that soon, but my aunt who got her for me didn't know. That's on the verge. Really, 6 weeks is generally considered to be, the time to go ahead and separate. And a lot of places it's illegal to sell animals under 6 weeks old. But it's not the end of the world. The things you may have to worry about with her, with dogs especially, is that a lot of times if they're separated too young, and that's not terribly young, so it may not be an issue. But if they're separated from them too young, from the rest of the puppies and things like that, they don't learn bite control, because that's how they kind of learn that, is that as they bite and play with the other puppies, they figure out, oh, that hurts when I bite them. They react, and that's kind of how they learn that. So you may have some issues with that, but it's probably going to be okay. Sierra Delta says, hey, Chris, hi all. A quick question in regards to sand in the quail box. There's always feed for them, but they seem to eat the sand from the box. Is this a problem? It's raining and 83 degrees Fahrenheit. My lock, the land of ruse. Okay, I don't know. I don't know what that last part meant. You lost me there a little bit. No, it's not a problem for them to eat sand. That's pretty normal. In the wild, they're going to eat little pieces of gravel, little pieces of rock, and things like that, because it's grit, basically. They need grit in their crop to be able, not if you're just feeding them pellets or crumble, they don't really need it for that. But if they're going to eat anything else like insects and all those kinds of things, they need the grit in their crop to help break that up and to digest those kinds of foods. So it's normal for them to do that. Don't stress about it. It's not a problem. Let them have at it, especially if you're going to be giving them like insects or, like mealworms or any of those kinds of things. They're going to need that anyway. Emma says, I have rabbits. Oh, I've had rabbits since I was young, but never bred them. I'm thinking of taking the leap into breeding mini Rexes for the pet market. Any advice? Well, I don't know breed away. I don't know. Is there a market for them? I guess would be the thing that I would try to find out before you get too far into that. It doesn't mean you can't start with like one litter and see, can you sell them? But I wouldn't go all in crazy until you find out if there's actually a market for them in your area. You might check around a little bit, see, are there people selling them in your area? Are there people that are regularly selling them in your area? If you find somebody like on Craigslist or whatever that has them for sale regularly and is doing that over and over and over, well, that probably means there's a market for it. So don't look at that as competition. That's not a big deal. Make sure, I was going to say, if you're going to sell them for the pet market, make sure you have pedigree rabbits that you're breeding so you can have pedigree rabbits to sell. That's going to bring a little bit more money in. I don't know if mini Rexes I don't know how much they go for right now. Let me do a quick search here. Let me see if I got anybody here locally selling them. No, that didn't help. Hang on, let's see. I don't know. There we go. Okay, mini Rex bucks. Somebody's selling one here locally for $30. Looks like these are just one-off rabbits. That's a mixed breed rabbit for $20. Mini Rex rabbits for $30. That looks like a litter. So there is somebody selling a litter. There's quite a few. There may be a little bit of a market for it. There's one for $45, an Opal Mini Rex. I don't know where that is. That's not in my local area. That's a little bit. So there may be a little bit of a market for them. Worth checking out, I guess. I don't really know. I don't sell a lot of rabbits, and I don't sell for the pet market. So I don't know if I can give you much better advice than that. TM says, if you have specific questions about breeding or something like that, yeah, ask them. I can definitely answer those. Sorry, I didn't mean to just drop it, but I don't know if I don't know if you're looking for other advice or if that was just it or if that helps. TM says, I would like to see if it would affect the taste of the meat. I heard some people use it to warm up their birds. I just wanted to see if it would affect the taste of the meat. Yeah, interesting. I don't know. You could try it out and see. Andy Rabbit says the brooder was divided section with a wire rack that covers the top. Makes me wonder if they just choose to stay in now. LOL. But one rack was knocked a few inches down. That's a good question. I don't know. Jacob Wolf wants to know what's my favorite kind of cheese. Boy, that's a random question. I guess it depends really on what you're talking. I mean, like, like on a sandwich, I kind of like cheddar or American. I like blue cheese quite a bit. That's one of my favorites. But if I'm looking at just like a cheese tray, like you got cheese and crackers and summer sausage, that kind of stuff, cheddar's a go-to for me. Room temperature, warm cheese. I like sweaty cheese. Warm cheese is always a little bit better than ice cold out of the refrigerator. Cheddar's a good choice. Pepper jack's a good choice. I had some goat cheese that was really good. It was like a cranberry something goat cheese. It was really good. Came from Aldi, I think. That was really good. But yeah, I don't know. My absolute favorite, it kind of depends. Cheddar and blue cheese are probably up there pretty high. Short Pickens Quail says, mostly when I have extra eggs, I will bake the chickens an omelet with the eggs, shells, oatmeal, pepper flakes, oregano, and cayenne pepper. Okay. Seems like a lot of work, but why not? Do it. Mr. Mata says, got my first New Zealand meat rabbit, 10 weeks old. I purchased Producer's Pride 15% pellet. Do I need higher protein? Hey, we got Lars here, I can tell, with look at that, 169 Danish crown super chat. Thank you so much, Lars. Always so generous. Never asks for anything, just comes in here and throws money at us. Mr. Mata says, okay, we read that. 15. Do I need higher protein feed? Now, 15% is okay. 15% is not bad at all. 10 weeks old, I mean, if you can get a little higher, up to maybe like 19%, something like that, it won't hurt, but you're going to do fine with 15%. You don't need to worry about it. Emma says, I saw your post a few days ago about the pigeons, Tyler. How did it taste? Okay, so Tyler was talking about pigeons. I don't know exactly what we're going about there. Every time Tyler has a comment posted, it always says message retracted, so I don't ever get to read them. So I'm guessing you ate quail. I'm sure it tastes a lot like, they're basically just doves. They're just rock doves. So they would probably taste a lot like quail, a lot like dove. Berna says, they say adding oatmeal to the rabbit feed for the dough that recently kindled as it increases milk production. I've heard some of those things. Yeah. Let's see. Whoa, scroll back up. Andy Rabbit says pet people are a little annoying. Yeah, I can imagine that they could be. Andrew says, I've heard that you can use petroleum jelly to cover head wounds in quail. Have you used anything like that? I have not, but that sounds logical. Yeah, I don't see why you couldn't. Emma says, good advice. Thank you. I'm in the UK and they go for around 40 pounds each. I don't know what that translates to in dollars. I think it's they're not too far off, are they? I don't know, honestly. Have no idea. But is that a good price? If it's worth it, do it. Buck Reynolds says, go to some pet store and talk to them about buying your rabbits. That's not a bad idea either. Pet store or farm supply store. I don't know what it's like in the UK, but here you can even sell to like Atwood's farm supply store, Atwood's tractor supply. I don't think Tractor Supply will buy rabbits, but Atwood's will. You can get set up and they'll buy your rabbits from you at a little bit of a discount because they got to make a profit off of them too. But it's still a place to unload them, if you can't get them sold anywhere else. Jacob says, I love blue cheese. I know a lot think it's gross. I like my blue cheese like how I like my women. The chunkier, the better. Okay. Yeah, blue cheese is one of my favorites. It's especially if you're going to have something spicy with it, like hot wings or, something like that. It goes really well with that. John Alexander says, John Alexander from Katy, Texas. Thanks for the live chat. Well, thanks for joining us for the live chat. Scott says, 2 people near me, one selling 1 male, 4 female, California. Other has 1 male, 2 female, Tamuck. I'm thinking getting 1 male and 2 of each, 6 total. What do you think? So, okay, 1 male and 2 female of each, 6 total. Okay, so 6 total rabbits, 5 does, 1 buck. You might want to get 2 bucks, just because what if something happens to the 1 buck? You're out, But that doesn't sound like a bad plan. If you just got the cage space for 1 and you can get another buck to replace them if something happens, why not? There's no reason to have extra bucks if you don't need them, and $1 can easily handle 5 does. So yeah, that doesn't sound like a bad idea at all. Make sure that they're not. I mean, if you're just raising them for meat, it's not as big of a deal. But you really don't want to be breeding brother and sister together, especially if you're planning on making those future breeders or anything like that. So you just might want to make sure that if you get the 2 females from the same place you get the buck, that they're not brother sister related. They can be sisters. You just don't want them related to the buck if you can help it. Witch Doctor says, Lars, you're amazing. Lars is pretty, like I said, always very generous. We haven't seen you in a while, Lars. I'm glad you made it back in. Not just because you throw money, just glad you're here. You don't have to give me money. It's okay. Emma says, a good old vintage mature cheddar, the crumbly stuff for me with fruit of some kind. Yeah, I don't do cheese and fruit. That's a weird combination to me. But yeah, I mean, I get it. Some people really like that. It's just not my deal. I'm a little bit odd on that. But yeah, like I said, room temperature. You always let your cheese sit out and warm up a little bit before you serve it. I mean, it's not as big of a deal if you're just putting like a slab of American cheese on a sandwich or something like that. But if you've got good like slices of cheese like on a meat tray or something like that, let it sit out and get up to room temperature. It'll be way better. Witch Doctor, good night to you. Have a good evening. We'll see you maybe next week, hopefully. Andy Rabbit says, Emma, you need to learn a little rabbit genetics if you're going to breed for pets. Breed for pets. Black don't sell and white don't sell. California color don't sell well. Well, that's here. I mean, it may be different in the UK, but yeah, that's not a bad idea either, is to look at genetics, see what are the most popular color patterns, try to breed for that. I need to get out and do an update on my rabbits because I do have a blue doe or a blue rabbit. I don't know if it's a doe or not that came out of my last litter. I got 5, 4 black, 1 blue. So they'll be pretty interesting. I'll do an update on them hopefully this weekend and show you guys those. Jay Bennett says, thinking of getting started with meat rabbits, what are some good breeds to consider? Popular question today. We answered this one already, but I'll do it again. No problem. There's lots of breeds that make good meat rabbits. Now, if you're looking around for rabbits in your area, you're probably going to find Californias and New Zealands, and both of them are a great option for meat. Try to get pedigree rabbits for your breeders if you can, or at least purebred. Trying to stay away from mixed breeds, especially anything with Flemish Giant in it. I don't think Flemish Giant makes a good meat rabbit, in my opinion. They grow out incredibly slow, bad meat to bone ratio. I don't like them as a meat rabbit. So try to stay away from Flemish Giant or anything that's been crossed with Flemish Giant. If you can get purebred, New Zealand White, California. If you get one of each, a buck, a New Zealand buck, a California doe, or a California buck, New Zealand doe, either way, and crossbreed them, you'll have really good results with that hybrid vigor in that first level. You don't want to necessarily keep those as breeders. Those are great. You'll get good results with those being good, healthy young kits that grow fast usually. But there's other breeds too. I mean, silver foxes are a good breed. They're a heritage breed. They do tend to grow out a little bit slower than the New Zealands. My silver foxes don't usually have as big a litters as my New Zealands do either. So if that's important to you, you may want to consider that. But they're still a great rabbit. They're to me, they're way easier to handle than the New Zealands are. New Zealands can be a little bit cranky, a little bit neurotic sometimes. They tend to kick a little bit more, panicky. I guess is the word. My silver foxes tend to be a little bit calmer, a little bit easier to handle. But anyway, there's a whole bunch. Standard Rexes even make good meat rabbit. What else? There's Florida Whites. There's, really any large rabbit that gets around 10 pounds is going to probably be a decent meat rabbit. Joe Sandy says, I think he meant 2 males and 4 females. Oh, well, that may be, you're talking about, who was it that was saying, about rabbits, getting rabbits too. And I thought 1 buck and 5 females. I thought that's what it said, but I may have read it wrong. Either way, 2 males, 4 females, that's a good combination too. You can't go wrong with that. TM says, I don't know what to think about cheese on apple pie either. I've never I don't think I've ever heard of putting cheese on apple pie, but yeah, that's a little weird to me. I don't know about that. Andy Rabbit says, also, Emma, pet people don't take anything. Oh, don't wait. Also, Emma, pet people don't anything about genetics and don't know it's okay to breed family. So there is that too. You have to have enough litters that are not family at one time. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying now. They don't know about line breeding. So when you're talking about like breeding a father back to its daughter or a son to its mother or something like that, which is an acceptable practice. There's reasons to do that. There's benefits to that if you're doing it for a purpose. But yeah, you're right. A lot of pet people will freak out about that. They tend to be kind of I don't know. We call them like the house bunny, groups that little pampered, I guess, is the best way to say that. And maybe a little sheltered. They don't really know what true animal genetics are like. They don't understand any of those things. So you just got to be a little bit careful about how you treat that. And they may even freak out about wire cages. Of course, in the UK, I think a lot of people freak out about wire cages. I don't know if that's a thing there or not. Warchild says, do you have a go-to animal auctions? Might be an interesting vid, maybe. Yeah, I haven't been to an animal auction in a very long time. There used to be some that ran around here. We do have a swap meet that goes on. I tried to do video there before, but the people that show up there get real panicky when you start bringing out a camera. They don't like that too much. They tend to be a lot of not everybody, but there's a group of people that show up that the swap meet kind of be like, there's a lot of animals there, a lot of rabbits, quail, chickens, I mean, all kinds of things. But there's also a lot of like flea market type stuff going on there too, where people are just selling just junk basically. And I say junk, I mean just stuff, and they don't really like people walking around with cameras. They're kind of conspiracy people, and they get a little bit paranoid about it. So I don't usually break the camera out when I go to those things. It just kind of makes people uncomfortable. Verna says, blues are interesting, Chris. Yeah, I like the blue ones quite a bit. I've got a blue doe. I like that color strain. Jacob says, Chris, are you a skim 1%, 2%, or whole milk kind of guy? Do you have to ask, really? It's whole milk. Yeah, whole milk for sure. I can do 2% if I have to, but skim milk is terrible. It's just like water. I mean, it's horrible. I like to go and get the raw milk with a big plug of cream on the top. That's the stuff. Shake it up real good first. Be a little chunky when you drink it. It's okay. But yeah, I like the full fat stuff. Make a big glass of chocolate milk with that raw milk with the cream in it, and oh man, that's good. Martin says, good evening. I'm just getting back into meat rabbits after a 2-year break, going with Tamuk composites this time. Well, awesome. I've heard those are great. I have not had personal experience with them because I haven't been able to find them. So, but I hope they go well for you. Verna says, personally, I love Havana rabbits. That's a good option too. I forget about those. Blessed with Pets says, God bless. I'm going to go hang with my mama. Well, happy birthday again, Blessed with Pets. Hopefully you are having a good day today as well. Emma says, Andy, you can or cannot breed family. You can. You don't necessarily, breeding brother and sister together. I mean, it can be done, but that's not really that great. But again, line breeding, like breeding your buck to its daughter or your doe to its son. If you have really good traits that you want to be able to emphasize, then that's a good way to do it. Read about line breeding in rabbits. There's a little bit more to it than that. It's a little bit more involved than just, you don't want to just breed every son back to its mother. You don't want to just do that. There's reasons to do it, and learn the standards of your breed, whatever breed it is that you're going to be, I think you said mini Rexes, look up what are the standards, what makes a good mini Rex rabbit. And then when you start seeing those traits, like you have offspring that display that trait, that's when you might want to look at breeding back to the parent to build out your genetic line, to emphasize those traits and bring those out. Emma says, I don't like red eyes either. Yeah. Andy Rabbit says, Emma, you have to convince pet people that red eyes are not red. They are pink. Yeah. Lots of pet people freak out about the red eyes. I know. Andy says, Emma, it's okay to breed family, but pet people buyers don't think it's okay. No, that's a weird thing for them. And I get why. They just don't know. I mean, it's not stupidity. It's just ignorance. Red eyes are demons. David says, I live in Florida. What meat rabbits are good in the heat? Well, if you honestly, rabbits struggle generally in the heat. Now, Tamuks are supposed to be bred for heat tolerance and do a little bit better. I don't know how true that is because I've never had the experience with them. But if you just look for people that are breeding rabbits in your area, those rabbits are going to be pretty much acclimated to your climate anyway, and they're probably going to be fine. You shouldn't have to worry about it too much. The key is keep them out of the sun. Put them in a shady spot where sun doesn't hit them directly, and they're going to be okay. Lots of ventilation. Andy Rabbit says, yes, they don't know about line breeding, and they want nothing related when they buy. Martin Rabbitry says, have a good night. Have a good night, too. I'll see you hopefully next week. But Emma Bell says, ooh, cheese on apple pie. Yeah, no, that doesn't sound good either. Oh, Chester's leaving. Okay, have a good evening, Chester. Thanks for joining us. Scrap 5000 says, Dag Nabbit, I'm so late. What's up, y'all? Greetings from New York City. Smash the like button. We got 58 likes in here. We're doing pretty good. Gunklingen Palin says, my New Zealand doe is 6 pounds now, thinking another 4 to 6 weeks, and she should be ready to breed. Shoveling the alfalfa pellets in her with free choice orchard grass hay. Well, that's not a bad idea. It sounds like she's 6 pounds now, 4 to 6 weeks she's in New Zealand. So yeah, you want to, when she gets to be around, 7.5, 8 pounds, somewhere right around in there, you're probably okay to go ahead and breed her. Buck says, if you are breeding rabbits, just don't breed litter mate. Everything else will work. That's, for the most part, pretty good advice. Bernice says, I wish I could get a hold of raw milk. Yeah, we got somebody that sells some at the farmer's market here. I don't go get it very often because it's just a little ways out of my way. And we go through phases where we drink milk a lot, and then we don't even have any milk in the house right now. But yeah, when I can get it, that whole milk is the best. Excuse me, raw milk. Joe Sandy says, whole milk, 100%. I wish I could get raw milk without buying into a herd share. I was paying about $8 a gallon. After a year, I had to stop. Yeah, it can be expensive. And then Verna says they're afraid of resurging of smallpox. I don't know what that's in reference to. Gunklingen Palin says, if you got a choice buck, breed to daughters. If you have a choice doe, bring some more of her traits into your herd by breeding her to her best buck son. That's a good way to summarize it. But again, research what really makes a good rabbit, whatever breed it is you're breeding, and look for those traits. That's when you want to accentuate those traits. You don't want to just breed a bad doe to a bad son, that doesn't have any good traits. You're not getting anywhere with that. David says, how do you keep mosquitoes away from your rabbits and quail? I don't worry about it too much. I don't have any problems with it really. We do have mosquitoes here, and sometimes it's worse than others. It depends on how rainy our early season is usually. We also have bats. Bats eat a lot of mosquitoes. I've been seeing the bats out already. But I just don't worry about it too much. I don't have a huge mosquito problem. So it's not, it may be a bigger deal for some people than it is for me. TM says, I don't eat too much cereal either, just not that much into milk. Lactose intolerant. Oh, yeah, that would be bad. I like milk. I do. But like I said, we go through phases where we drink more milk than sometimes we don't, I don't eat a lot of cereal. I mean, occasionally I'll go through a phase where maybe for a couple of weeks we buy some cereal and we eat cereal, but other than that, very seldom. Trapper says, have you ever had problems breeding a doe if you missed a season? I have 2 does that I didn't breed for over a year, just bred them both a month apart, and neither had a litter. Is that common? That's not uncommon. Sometimes you take a big break, and it's hard to get them to breed again. You can keep trying. Sometimes they'll build up. I mean, especially if they're a little bit on the overweight side, they'll build up fat basically around their ovary. It makes it hard for them to conceive. But, all you can do really is just keep trying and see how they do. Patty Toes, I don't know how to pronounce that, but anyway, says, hello from California. Hope all is well. All is well here. Hopefully you are too. Jennifer says, raw milk is $12 a gallon in East Tennessee. Holy cow, that's high. Yeah, I want to say that I was buying it. When I do buy it, it's like, I don't know, it's like maybe $6 a gallon. It may have gone up a little because it's been a year or two since I've gotten any. Andy says, I lived on a dairy farm most of my early adult. Whole milk don't taste anything like raw milk. It has too much ads in it for my likings. 2% tastes more like real milk to me. Interesting. George says, I have a massive fly problem with my quails. Somewhere in Australia at the moment, very hot and humid. Yeah, that's rough too. I've had some issues with flies in the past, and I've tried things like those fly traps that are basically a bag you add some water to, and they work. They catch a lot of flies. Black soldier fly, it's the best thing that ever happened. I mean, they're just natural here. They just occur. But basically, they tend to move into my manure underneath the quail hutches and the rabbit hutches, for that matter, in the summertime, and they just drive out the fly. I mean, they I think they eat the mag. I don't know, but there's hardly any fly problem when those things are around. They devour everything. They're composting machines. It's incredible. But you might look into something like fly predators. If if the fly traps aren't working for you, fly predators are kind of the same thought. Basically, they go after the larva stage of the flies and attack those. You can buy them online. I'm assuming in Australia. I don't know if they're available in Australia or not, but that's something to kind of look at as well. Verna's saying start breeding black soldier flies. That's a good option. George says the flies are absolutely huge. They would eat the soldier flies for breakfast. Well, they don't. Yeah, I don't think they would actually. You'd be surprised. The soldier fly larva is incredible. I mean, and it's not. They don't go after the flies. They basically go after the larva. So it's like birth control for the flies. Let's see where we're going here. Gumbo Galahad's taken out. Good to see you. Hopefully we'll see you soon. Gunkling and Palin says 2% tastes more like real milk, maybe like real powdered milk. LOL. Flavor isn't the fat in the milk. Same with meat. Well, I kind of agree with you, but to each their own. We did, for a while. I was, wasn't by my choice necessarily, but 2% was what we got. It was a long time ago in a different life, when I had other people living in the house and they wanted 2% milk. And I got used to it. It was okay. It's not terrible. It's not, but I can't do skim 1%. I can't do any of those. Buck says, I let my chickens in my rabbit house. Don't have many flies. Yeah, always. Yeah. Some kind of predator to have around is good. If you have purple martins, they're great fly catchers. You have to buy, build houses for them to draw them in and stuff. But dragonflies do a good job of help keeping them under control. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. But yeah, look at fly predators. I haven't actually used them, but it works off the same concept of, black soldier fly. And basically, like I said, the black soldier fly do a great job. Spider Reva says, I heard rosemary is good to keep mosquitoes away. I'm going to try it. Well, I have some rosemary growing, but it's not a whole lot. So I don't know how much it's doing to keep mosquitoes away. The biggest thing to keep mosquitoes away is keep your water down. Don't leave anything out like, tires or anything like that that's going to hold water. It's going to collect water and hold it because they will breed in just, lay eggs in a cup full of water less, and you'll have mosquitoes. All right, well, I'm waiting for comments to come through. Short Pickens Quail says, after seeing comments here, I feel, I got a Windows update thing. Hang on. I got to get rid of that for right now. We'll take care of that later. Oh, there we go. Back to it. Where was I? After seeing comments here, I feel fortunate we got raw milk for $5 a gallon. That's a pretty good price. I would feel fortunate about that too. Joy Guthrie says, what month is best for breeding rabbits? I don't know that it comes down to a specific month. It depends a lot on your climate. I avoid breeding rabbits in the heat of summer. So I try to make sure that I'm not breeding rabbits to where they're going to be having babies anytime from from June through September usually. The rest of the time, and I prefer the fall, I prefer the winter. Even if it's super cold out, I breed then. They do a lot better in the cooler of winter than they do in the heat of summer. But Verna's got a good point. She says any month you can get them to breed. That's not bad advice. David says, what do they do with the other 98% of the milk? Why can't I get 198% milk? That's a good question. I don't know. What do they do with the other 2% or whatever, the 98% and 1%? I don't know. I don't know what they do. They probably, somehow separate that out and then put it in animal feed. Buck says even month. It's best to breed them in even months, I guess. I don't know. I don't know that it makes that big of a difference. Like I said, I just try to avoid breeding in the heat of summer. I tend to focus on the cooler weather, even the cold weather. I mean, I have babies born sub-freezing temperatures. We had 4 inches of snow the other day, and it doesn't bother the rabbits at all. Of course, it wasn't all that cold out then, but they do much better in cold, even sub-freezing temperature than they do in the heat of summer. I know lots of people that breed rabbits, even here, all summer long, but they look so miserable anyway when it's like 90 degrees out. I don't want them to be pregnant on top of that. It just doesn't seem good. But anyway. Verna says, when they're talking about percent in milk, they're talking about much higher fat volume. Yeah, we know. It was kind of a joke, I think. But yeah, I get it. Andy Rabbit says, joy any month that has 28 days in it. Yeah, that's probably good too. Emma Ball says, do you have any hobbies, Chris? What do you do for enjoyment? Oh, I have lots of little hobbies that pick up and down, sometimes photography. I do a little bit of video work on the side occasionally. I haven't done that in a while. Mostly it was real estate. I was doing like video walkthroughs of real estate houses and things like that. But I haven't done that in a while. I'm metal detecting. I like to go metal detecting sometimes. I hunt, I fish, kayaking, well, more fishing. I don't consider myself a kayaker. I have a kayak. I love my kayak. I love to put it in the water, but I'm doing it to fish. I don't see the point in floating down the river without fishing, but that's just me. What else? What else do I like? What other hobbies do I have? Macrame sometimes. Sometimes I get excited about that and do that. Sometimes coin collecting. These are all things that, I may not do for a year or two. And then all of a sudden I decide to go out and do that stuff for a little while. And I do that for a little while. And then, maybe for another year I'm doing that. And then I put it off for another couple of years. I mean, I pick these things up and put them down all the time. Backyard Quail Keeper says, hey, Chris, my rue pansy is overly aggressive, scalping the hens. What is the ratio that the offspring will be? I think you mean what's the likelihood that the offspring will be aggressive too? I think that, I personally believe that aggression can be a genetic trait, but can also be because of environmental issues and things like that. As far as whether the offspring will be aggressive or not, I don't know, honestly. But if it was me and I had an overly aggressive rooster, especially if you had other roosters available, I would eat it. But that's just me. And it sounds like you've named this one, so you probably don't want to eat it. But I don't know. I don't know that it's really that high odds that you're going to have aggression problems if you've just got one bird that's that way. Watch them and see how they go. Buck says, I raise 75 to 100 baby a month. Well, that's quite a bit. Hopefully that's all going well. Gun Clean Palin says, I used to breed rabbits year round, 2 litters a year, rebreed at 2 weeks after birth, wean, or 12 litters a year. There we go. Rebreed at 2 weeks after birth, wean at 5 weeks, keep higher in milk, and stay on the alfalfa. Maybe that's not keep higher. Keep HGER. Keep her in milk and stay on the alfalfa. Yeah, plenty of people do. You can do it for sure. I just choose not to breed in the heat of summer. Andy says, I like May and early June if I'm going to keep a baby back for replacement breeders. That's not a bad advice either. We're running close on time, I think. Oh, my goodness, it's right at 8 o'clock. Let's see if I can knock out 1 or 2 more comments, and then we'll wrap this one up. Let's see. Verna says, hope you have a second rabbit that has given birth and will adopt the rejected kits. Joy. That's not a bad idea, but I don't know if it's really that big of an issue. Andy Rabbit says, Joy, you breed 2 does at the same time so you can foster them over if needed. You can. I've never actually had to do that. I mean, just occasionally, but not very often. Emma says, great hobbies. I share a few of those. I didn't have you down for macrame. Excuse the spelling. It's okay. Would you be interested in entering a quail photography competition? If so, I'll send you the details. I don't know. Maybe. I never thought about quail photography competition. They're not super photogenic in my opinion, but I don't know. Maybe. Let's try it. Send me the details if you want. My email is the best way to probably do that, Chris@slightlyrednecked.com. I need to check that too. Let me pull that up so I don't forget. Sometimes I don't get my email forwarded like it should, so I have to remember to log in and check every once in a while. It's supposed to forward to my personal. That is not what I wanted. There we go. Yeah, that's the right one. Okay. Just get that set up so I don't forget to check it later. Chris Mason says, good night all. As always, I learned a lot and really appreciate everyone. And what do I do if my rabbit, this is Joy, what do I do if my rabbit rejected her kits and I only have one mother? First of all, are you sure she rejected her kits? Just because you don't see her messing with them, that's not really a sign that she's rejected her kits. If they're, more than a couple of days old and they're still alive, she probably has not rejected them, especially if they don't look like overly skinny. If you are having issues and they're looking overly skinny, starting to get lethargic or anything like that, you can try to hand feed them. It's really hard to do, but you can try. Get some like kitten milk replacement or a goat milk replacement, and you're gonna have to feed them a couple of times a day. But I doubt she's rejected them. That's pretty rare, actually. And as far as the macrame goes, I forgot to respond to that, Emma. I'm sorry about the macrame. You would never have me down as a macrame. Yeah, I mean, I know people don't necessarily call it macrame, but I do all kinds of things. I make gunslings. I make, I got my little keychain here. It's all kinds of messed up right now, but that's basically macrame right there. I don't know if that's showing up. That's pretty old. It's looking pretty rough. Probably should make a new one. But I do all kinds of little things like that. I like knots. Knots are kind of neat to me. And the fact that you can build things. I make plant hangers for my wife sometimes. Belts, all kinds of different things. All right. I got to wrap this one up, guys. Always good to hang out with you for a little while. And thanks for joining me tonight. Hopefully we'll see you back next week. I don't have any reason to think I won't be here next week. So we'll let you go. Thanks for joining. As always, God bless.